This is a special call meeting of the City Council. As we go through the reports and get to the policy agenda, that's when the clerk will read the general purpose for calling this meeting. We'll go ahead and start with the mayor's report. What?
Motion to accept the agenda.
Oh, okay. Do I have a motion to accept the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Second. Any discussion? There being no discussion, we'll call for the question. All in favor? Those opposed? Motion carries. Now we'll have the mayor's report.
No report.
Very good. Council reports. Mr. Gray? No report. Mr. Marshall? No report. All right. Mr. Nail?
No report.
Mr. Creel?
Come back to me. No, I'm just kidding. No report.
Mr. Tisdale?
No report, thank you.
Mr. Shoemaker? No report. Okay, the only thing I want to comment under my council report is that it is great to see all 7 members of the council show up for this workshop. It's not necessarily mandatory, but it is essential that we discuss this potential action that's before us. Once the clerk reads the policy agenda, we'll start off with the administration making some opening comments, and then each council member will have time, and I'll start from 1 going all the way down to 7. Any ideas, thoughts that you may have, and then we'll continue until which time we need to adjourn. All right, the public agenda is citizen comments. We have a total allotted time of 45 minutes. Each person that would like to speak will have up to 3 minutes to talk about any topic they want to speak about. This is not Q&A or questions and answers. It's simply something that you have on your mind that you want to convey in this council meeting. So I'll begin on my left. Anyone would like to come up and speak? There being no one, I'll start on my right. Anyone, raise your hand if you'd like to be recognized to come up and speak. All right, there being no one, citizen comments is now closed. We'll move on to the policy agenda if the clerk would read the purpose of the policy agenda.
Subject matter is to discuss the intention to issue general obligation bonds in the amount of $14 million.
Very good. We'll start with the administration. Any opening comments?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. I want to thank Jane for being here today. She's provided since the subject is the bond and bond steps, I think you all should have a calendar of what's next, so to speak. And I did, I think Rick and Christy prepared the things what we got to do, and generally an amount and what ward. There may be some ward numbers that are not correct, like I know the Civic Center is not in Ward 1, it's Ward 2. But this is a list of things we got to do. And there's a number of years as far as life cycle of when you make a repair to a chiller or to a road or to a building, in accordance with what they want us to be, make sure that these repairs and things are longer than the bond. So this list was prepared and revised or rebit, but we grouped them in some categories so you'll know about what makes up. You pick and choose what's the most important, and whether it's 10 million or 14 million or 20 million, this is things that have been identified. One other thing too, at the top of the list, 2 important things. There's a memo that was sent to Congressman Ezell. We have awarded a grant, which is water quality and kind of improvement funding. It started out with $5 million a few years ago. It became $10 million, and we're asking for $15 million, and that's for some pretty much shovel-ready kinds of things, specifically in Wool Market. David it indicated the improvements there. But what I tried to do in the spreadsheet was show that the amount of work that we would get for 25% match that the match would come from the bond. That's kind of important. That $15 million that we're hopefully would be added in this appropriation, so it went from 10 to 15. and that reflects some of the things I think we need to do. But from the bond, whether it's a match or actually total construction, that's the column that's headed from bond. And you can see the things we're trying to do. Generators, HVAC, and down towards the bottom, some of the projects related to improvements and sidewalks and paving are listed. So without, I know it's a lot to absorb in just a few minutes, but these are the things we're talking about doing. The amount is up to $14 million was the last conversation we had. That would yield about 13.5, is that right? If we pass a $14 million bond, we'd actually yield 13.5 cash. So, Rick, I don't know if you'd like to add anything, but bottom line, these are the things we're talking about doing, because I think that was the thrust of our conversation or the purpose of this workshop, to say, what are we going to do while we're doing it this way? Let me ask if you have any questions at this point.
Any questions for the mayor?
Question.
All right, Mr. Creel is recognized.
Regarding your memo that's in here, we're asking for the increase to 15, or we
That's
should.
10. We've got 10.
We do have 10.
Yep.
Okay, we're just asking for another 5.
Yep.
But we're guaranteed the 10.
Yep, I can't guarantee this for you.
Well, no, but the 10's pretty secure.
Yeah.
It's just that we're asking for an increase.
Right, and as long as I'm glad you brought that up too, the 10 and even, the match is 25%.
Right.
One thing that we were recently notified about, that MDEQ within the state, the quality, has an opportunity to use and finance even at a better rate than this match, at 0.8%, I think there was. You aware of that one, Jane? But bottom line, we may be able to do better if it's a federal match and it qualifies. So that was brought up just.
You may be able to use MDEQ money rather than the bond money to match
Bond
this.
money to match, that's right.
Okay.
But we don't know that. But this is the scenario we can move forward with about $15 million of work for about 3.4, something like that.
Because if you take a look at this, Councilman Creel, this is a lot more than the 14 million that we're requesting in the bond, if you calculate all of those up. So as we work through there may be other opportunities for us to get low interest rates to be able to do that. For us to be able to borrow at 3.6 to do $15-16 million worth of work, not only in Wool Market, but also over in Paul's ward as well too, Edgewater Estates. That's a huge deal.
Right. But
And the 10 is already locked in. They're going back to request and go from 10 to 15, but we feel very comfortable based upon conversations with Congressman Ezell and his team that 15 should be no issue.
Okay. Another question. So on this project list here, how many of these projects were on a previous list?
Well, they've all been identified as we going along. Things that had to be done, like replacement of those generators. And we're running on borrowed time as far as roofs and stuff like that. And I know the public safety roof has been on a list for 5 years.
Yeah.
It always leaks.
Well, I know the AC units definitely have to be on. I got an email this morning from a young lady that works over there with the temperature's 58 degrees at the copy machine. So I know that needs to be functioning. I get that. So there's no rankings on these projects here as of yet?
No, you're just groupings. Groupings on, hey,
Right.
the ones in the center that add to be about $5 million, those are things that got to be done. And again, the whole idea, and Jane, correct me, and Jason too, the whole idea about doing this, getting things done immediately, a couple of things happen. By the bond, I think it frees up some general fund obligations, spreads it out over a year and gives us some opportunity to do things, because if you wait, it's going to be up, especially when it comes to road and bridge and those kinds of things, it's going to jump 6% per year. So you push it down a year, you're losing 6% anyhow. So, it's reasonable to say, let's go get this thing done now, choke down the interest and do the debt service, but you got them done. You don't have to worry about, losing it through inflation or cost of increases of getting this stuff done. Does it make sense?
Yeah, and my question, to your point, if kicking it down, it's going to cost you 6% more later. How many of these have already cost us that 6% that we couldn't get to last year or the year previous? So,
Well, it's not the cost of repairing it, just the services you don't have. When you have a Mardi Gras ball and you have an AC chiller goes out, and people are, because that's a recent case. I mean, you can't stand these buildings now are, 15 years old, and they're breaking down. I mean, just look at how many times we mess with City Hall with regard to AC. We just can't, it's got to be done, So how do we do it? How we most cost effectively do it is what we're proposing here.
If you had asked us, what we would say is the first and the second grouping would be your primary ones that we really need to take a look at and be able to fix. Once you tie those back in, because the opportunity to be able to do the water well, the first group, to have $15-16 million for 3.5 is huge, and to be able to take care of the Wool Market area that we've been needing to for several years. And then the second grouping of it is where those roofs are at, along with the natatorium, all of those things. If we do not fix those, all it's going to do is continue to deteriorate those facilities, and it's going to cost us more money in the long run. And then once we get after that, then we can start taking onesies and twosies if you'd like to take a look at those. But my recommendation, based on my prior experience, is 1 and 2 group definitely would need to be passed to be able to move forward on to take care of these facilities. And we'll be doing a lot better from our preventative maintenance standpoint as well, too.
Thank you. Mr. Gray?
That's all I want to ask. I see nothing in here for future maintenance programs for HVAC.
That's not going to be in the bond. What that will do is go back to Christie with Public Works and with engineering, and that's just preventative maintenance every year in which we're going to be doing. And we're starting that currently right now.
So we're starting a new maintenance program for us? Okay. That's
All right. Mr. Shoemaker?
I know we discussed this a little bit, and just to make sure I have the numbers right, if we were to get the $14 million bond, that would be a cost to the city yearly of about 1.1 million.
Million, yeah.
But the first several months, I think, can be discounted.
Well, there's a way to spread it. I think we get the money in say, mid-26.
Well, yes, sir. The way that bond makes work is it annually. So the first interest payment wouldn't be due until 6 months after we issue the bonds, and y'all have the money. And also, if you need more time than that, we can structure it so that less debt service is coming through in the first few years, and then more later. That's called back-end waiting, and it's very common in situations like this. The idea would be that as millage rolls off from existing debt and is no longer needed for that, you don't have to raise millage. You just use the millage that's already there to pay some of the debt service on these new bonds.
Okay. And
Very specifically, I'm glad you put, because I asked Diana to put together, in April 1st will be the last payment of about
Yeah.
0.76 mils.
27, yeah.
And then in November, 27, 27, that's right. So around the time we'll be going up to 1.1. In November, a TIF is going to be, which is about 2 million a year. So we got about, rolling off in the calendar year 27, there'll be about 2.7 debt service rolling off.
right, so we would get rid of 2.7, that would be paid off. We'd be incurring 1.1 million, but obviously we're still saving a million and a half. And that, the payment this year, if we do this, would be normally put off 6 months. We wouldn't make a payment for 6 months.
Right. If you, say if you had money, April 1, you would pay your first interest payment October 1.
Okay,
And it would be interest only.
okay, all right, great, thank you, that's all I have.
All right. Mr. Marshall?
All right, Mayor, looking at this budget, I see the amounts and everything. We start off with 10 million, now we're looking at 14, 15. I'm reading this, and East Biloxi had 2 requests, specifically Ward 2. One, economically, we need to have a rec center. to be replaced. You've already promised it to the citizens over the years. You've repeatedly promised it to the citizens. I didn't put in a request for a whole lot of things, but I did put in a request for a rec center. Could you step outside and get that for me? Could you step outside the door? Get that, open the door for me. I did put in a request for a recreation center, and I put in a request to work on developing a grocery store. Okay, those are the only two things that I put in for. Those are the two things that East Biloxi has decided they really need to have. We've been pushing and pushing, and we've asked over and over again. We've gone through the trouble of even I don't know if you remember this, but yeah, we broke ground on that. We went out there, you had the shovels, you had people from our community go out and break ground on a community center. We spent almost $250,000 of taxpayers' money. $250,000 of taxpayers' money drawing up plans for a building. We've done everything, this community has done everything we could to ask and beg you for something very simple.
I have no problems with that. I was supportive of it when it came out. If it's your request to put $5 million in or $2.5 million and stack it up, it's your call. These are the things you want to spend this money, this debt service that you're going to do to get it done before. Because if you do wait, and I'm all in favor of putting as much as we can, as fast as we can, because it's going to cost more money. Hey, if it's your request,
that was my next thing.
If it's your request to add $5 million, I'm willing to do it.
That was my thing. At the time, it was $3 million.
Well,
I'm looking at
no, it never was $3 million at the time. There was never a request for $3 million. It's always been 4.5, 4.7 from day one. So let's get that straight.
Okay,
now let me ask you something. Just right now, is it your request to add that $5 million to this? I'm happy to do that. This is your request. This is what you're trying to do. Let's get this thing done, because it's going to cost more the longer you wait. Is it your request to put that?
East Biloxi Recreation Center?
I can hear you.
East Biloxi Recreation Center, put it in.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. It's our request from East Biloxi.
All right, good.
Okay.
Well, that just cut everything short. I had some other stuff I was going to say.
No, well, I mean, you can put it on the request, but that doesn't mean that it's going to actually be funded.
I mean, well, let me go back then. Let's go back and count out. We got a lot of
I'm looking
requests
at
here.
Councilman Marshall, the things that I just discussed with you have to be done. If we don't do these, those buildings are going to deteriorate and rot.
Okay, we don't have a building that can deteriorate because you haven't built that building. I'm asking that we go on and honor the promise.
Okay, you're asking to add $5 million to it for the total, or ask 2.5 and some other ideas to get funding? It's happy to do it.
Okay, you put the number in there.
$5 million to the top, and we'll do that.
Hold before we do that. Ms. Labate. Okay, the engineering's already done. Everything is done. Is $5 million going to get that building over there?
Yes, sir. There's about 3.5 in building costs and about 1.3 or so in site utility costs, parking lots, that kind of stuff.
Okay, that would be keeping the promise. That would be keeping the promise of the community. And we've always had. We lost 2 gyms. We asked for the one. Thank you.
May I say? Yes, sir.
Anything else?
I'm sorry.
Wait, Mr. Marshall, you have the floor. Anything else?
Okay. Anybody else have any problem with that?
Well, I just want to comment on that.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
And
Mr.
certainly no
Schmidt.
offense to you and your ward, but since 1999, Biloxi annexed Wool Market. Absolutely, they didn't want to be annexed. 26 years, if my math is correct. We don't have a building up there, but that's beside the point. We don't have water and sewer for the majority of the people in Wool Market. And I can tell you, almost daily, but all the time I hear that. There are, I think if I'm not mistaken, there's a little bit that's added here. And I understand your gym, but since 1999, these people don't have water and sewer, and they were promised that in 1999. So if we're going to do anything, we need to add a lot more money, and I'm not saying, honestly, I say that, and I know that's not gonna happen. But we've all got things in our ward, I think, that need to be done, and we could probably add $30 million to a bond and still not have everything done we need done. We can discuss it, we can approve it, not approve it, but if we're gonna start adding money and adding things and deleting things off this list, certainly Ward 7 and some water and sewer needed to be included. Facts, that should have been done years ago. You can't deny it, you can't say no, because it should have been done, it was promised. Not this administration didn't promise that. It was in 1999, 26 years ago, and people are still living with what they were promised and didn't get.
And I'm in agreement with him. I don't know what he's going through. When you got something that's promised that needs to be done, needs to be done. Do we need to raise the amount? If it's any way possible, we may have to do that. But we can't ignore, we annexed them, you know, and we made them promises. We need to keep them. So you're saying this is proposed, let's look at it, see what we can take off in order we can fulfill the promises that we've already made, the prior commitments. These are prior commitments that we've made.
Mr. Shoemaker, you still have the floor on this topic?
And I would just, and again, I'm not saying, I would love to include all the water and sewer in that, in Ward 7. It's never gonna happen, the money is too much, I understand that. And whatever we figure out and whatever we can do, and I only say that because I know Councilman Marshall wants a gym. We all need things. We're not gonna get it here. I see I've got some Walsh Fayard and Shorecrest widening. It's expensive. I know we've talked about it. I know realistically we just can't do it. I get that. I only bring that up regarding the streets, I mean the drain, the sewer and water, only because you were bringing that up, Councilman Marshall, about the gym, and I just figured I'd throw that out there as well, because certainly we need water and sewer that we've been promised. Again, nothing on this administration. We didn't promise them that in 1999, but as a city, we still have to do something about it, and that's why I was bringing that up. You want the gym, I need some water and sewer in my ward.
We can do them both, I believe.
That's all I have, thank you.
All right.
No, we're not, wait, I want to be clear.
Marshall?
I want to be clear. I'm saying we can do them both, but I'm quite sure it's going to take more than a few $1 million to do your water and sewer. But we need to start hammering at it with a concise plan, year to year, to set a goal. But to just say nothing for Ward 7, I'm not for that.
There's $15 million going that way right now. Actually 10 million, but there's a possibility 5 more million word of that if, you know, if this is successful.
Go clear it up for me.
Let me finish.
Okay, I just want you to
finish.
Okay.
You know, I'm addressing him, Councilman Shoemaker. But bottom line, that other 5 million, with that, no strings related, all those strings are met by improving that whole water quality issue with septic tanks and those kinds of things. And again, it makes sense because of the amount of buildings going, you know, the amount of houses going up. And so we have some margin. This is a $10 million scenario. It could be 15 million.
Okay. So I'm going to be clear, okay? You're saying that we are addressing his issue.
Solving anything.
No.
I'm just trying to say.
Are we addressing his issue with the water and sewer? Is that what you just said?
Some of it.
Okay. So like I said, we can do them both.
It's up to you.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. Mr. Marshall, you still have the floor.
Well, I know that the public is now privy to this information, I guess, but of all of this, when I subtract out what was set aside specifically for Ward 2, you know, and we're talking millions to the other wards, actually. It's $250,000 over $14 million. That's what we're looking at. And that's just, it's unacceptable either way it goes. We want the gym. And that's what we're gonna push for. Mayor?
This is not ward specific. You don't have 7 cities. We've got the needs of the city. Wherever the needs are is what's listed in this bill or in this spreadsheet.
If you can't look at our ward and see we have needs, every ward has needs, but what we're requesting.
No. These are things that need to be done immediately.
and nothing
The
but,
fastest way to do
Of
it,
all
the
these-
way to find, okay, listen,
so all these millions of dollars in Ward 2 don't need but $250,000 worth of work now.
No, sir, if you'll also take a look at the Civic Center, we're going to be replacing those HVAC units, and that's $475,000 just by itself.
Yeah, and I can show you right here where lines are here showing way more than that for any of these council members. We're not, what I want to do is this, I want to ask my fellow council members to let's honor the promise that was already made. When we go out there and we take shovels and newspaper, and we turn the ground and we take the shovels out there, and we spend almost $250,000 drawing up plans on a building, let's follow through. This is the time to do so, and that's all I'm asking my fellow council members to do.
That's it
Yeah.
at this time. All right, Mr. Nail.
I'm good.
Mr. Tisdale.
I'm going to yield to Mr. Creel, and
All right. I'll come back to you. Mr. Creel.
Yeah. On this list, one thing that was discussed, so the current projects that's happening in Bay Vista with the asbestos pipe drainage, it's been said before me, and then as I've been here, that Ancient Oak subdivision has the same infrastructure underneath, the same asbestos pipes, but I don't see it on this here. Just seeing how how it was left off, or if we can add it. It was addressed before I got here. I'm just carrying the water.
The reason it's not on this list is we don't have main breaks. We tried to address the areas that have the asbestos pipe that have the most main breaks, and Edgewater Estates, we have one at least probably once a month. We've had 3 since Christmas. So yes, there are asbestos still in that area. In the Sunkist, general Sunkist area, we have some pockets. They're on our radar, but we didn't include it in this because it's not a pressing need, because they're not breaking constantly like some of these other areas are.
Yeah, right. So,
And
so-
Councilman Creel, that's also some things that we can work through our general fund and our budgeting throughout the year to do the replacements on, especially once we take a look at the table version on the water rates as well. That should bring in some additional funding as well, too.
Just because it's not on this, I mean that we don't have a plan to get to it, essentially.
Okay. There.
These are just really fixing significant things that need to be taken care of currently right now.
Okay, so-
And from detrimental.
All right, one more thing. I noticed that towards the bottom, I'm assuming it gets less attention if it's towards the bottom. The dredging of Ancient Oaks, so both of the canals back there. Are we, since it's on this list, are we not submitting entitlements requests for that, or are we doing both?
No, we're doing both. We're still, we're doing both.
Okay, all right, thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Creel. I'm going to go ahead and get mine out of the way. I'll come back to Mr. Tisdale, and then Mr. Nail wants to chime in. So, as you mentioned, this isn't the only source. If we get Tideland money or some other grant or some other source of revenue to take care of some of the items on this list, then they can be removed and shifted somewhere else if we have that source of revenue to cover some of these items, and it's just good business, and we'll continue to do that. As our bond experts mentioned, anything that we use this money for should have a long-term useful life. It shouldn't have a short-term life of less than 5 years or even less than probably 7 years. So we need to be careful with that and minimize any of those items that may not have a long-term useful life. So again, I'd like to say good morning to all my fellow council members and the Biloxi community watching today. I've kind of outlined a few things that are on priority of this $14 million bond that we're up to $14 million, by the way, not necessarily $14 million, that will shape Ward 6 in our city. My perspective centers on concrete, high-impact investments that deliver safety, connectivity, and economic vitality for Ward 6 and the rest of the city, as some of these projects the fellow councilmen have stressed the importance of. But I want to align my request for a few areas. One, create critical pedestrian and neighborhood connectivity, and specifically sidewalks along Brody Drive, Brody Road, Tribe Drive, Lamy Street, and eventually Brazier Road. These sidewalks are not just about convenience. They're about the safety for students, for seniors, families, and all residents who walk to work, school, or use local services. They're intended, these sidewalks, that will knit Ward 6 more tightly into the community by providing safe, reliable routes for everyday mobility and emergency access for first responders. 2, unlock, as Mr. Shoemaker has alluded to, long-promised water and sewer backbone. When they redrew the lines, Ward 6 went up into the Wool Market area. And an easy project would be Mason Road. We do have some ability to connect Mason Road to water and sewer, and it's a start. It's not encompassing, like Mr. Shoemaker alluded to, our promise for all of Wool Market, but it begins that process of starting to connect the dots. And I think Mason Road would be a key area to make this connectivity. Of course, as neighborhoods move up in that area, it makes it easier because the developers put in a lot of the infrastructure that not only can connect water and sewer, but fire hydrants that help us provide safety, and it lowers our overall fire rating. It's the missing link that enables housing, small business growth, and neighborhood revitalization that residents have anticipated for years. 3, improve critical public safety and infrastructure. Fire Station 7 and Fire Station 10, upgrading the air-conditioned systems, and I've seen some of the public safety buildings too are in need of replacing some things, so I'm happy to see them on the list. But our first responders have been waiting for those upgrades to air conditioning and humidity controls in those facilities. So I hope that maintains that as a high priority. 4, sustain maximum the economic engine that the sports complex provides to ensure the maintenance and some of the elements that may have long-term usage in life that we hadn't been able to complete in the initial upgrade. But there is no question that it is an economic driver. In fact, we've submitted reports on just single tournaments that have millions of dollars. Just a single tournament has millions of dollars of economic impact, and I've provided that from time to time to the administration and my fellow council members. It's a competitive attraction that supports local jobs. It sustains millions in positive economic impact in what it already generates. And what sequence do we provide this? That is for the administration to digest, collectively get with the different departments, and to come back to the council with their proposals on this is what we feel the priorities are. Of course, we need to be inclusive in that dialogue to see how we can drive those priorities and what's important, and then what we have the ability to do or the ability to build the funding in certain accounts that it may not be able to be accomplished in year 1, maybe not even in year 2, but we should have a plan that we can eventually get to it, whether it's year 3 or less or year 3 or more. Brody Road, Tribe Drive widening. You know, there's been a lot in the news on all the housing that's going in that area. There's over 400 resident, either apartments, detached single dwellings, or single-family homes that is in progress right now. And that road probably needs to be assessed if it needs to be widened. Now, does that come under certain grants from Department of Transportation? Possibly. Does it need any allocation today? I don't know. Maybe it's a little bit more out there long-term that today isn't the day to prioritize it, but I certainly want to identify it, that just for pure safety reasons and all the bus traffic that goes up and down that road. Keep in mind, we have the high school, junior high, upper elementary, soon to be, we're expanding it to the new development that's on the old Kennedy engine. So the buses and the central location of a lot of students, parents and buses are going to be along that roadway, and we need a plan for that. Dredging, I would like, if we can kind of include in the dredging, Brazier Bayou. We did about 400,000 in dredging 2 years ago. We did almost half, I believe, in that general area, and I would like to, the residents are thrilled. They've sent letters up to our representatives thanking them, but we also have other neighbors that says they didn't get their dredging done. And it's a key element that this waterfront property allowed homeowners to be able to access and use that waterfront property. It also increases the value of those homes, which increases the ad valorem taxes that go into the city coffers to maintain our infrastructure. So I hope you don't mind my long-winded dossier here to kind of identify some things. Several of these things are already identified on the list. I just wanted to make sure that we get it on the record in this workshop today. With that, I'll yield to Mr. Tisdale.
Thank you. Good morning. Excuse me. I just want to make the priorities in Ward 5 clear. I'll go through the list. The most important is Edgewater Estates, those water lines. I know they'd like, after that work might be done, folks have expressed they'd like the roads resurfaced, they'd like curbs and gutters, they'd like sidewalks, which is somewhat a different discussion at a different time. But water lines, everybody should have access to dependable water. I don't think anybody will question that. The next item associated with that on the list that the mayor passed out is about halfway down, and it's $250,000, an estimate for Edgewater Estates miscellaneous drainage and sewer repairs. I know, Christy, we've been dealing with a couple of manholes out there, I think. So, but anyway, that could be wrapped into the water line project. I'm thinking, well, they're doing that. The second, and these are prioritized, the second most important thing, in my opinion, is Pine Grove Avenue, that issue with the failing structure underneath, and some of that was addressed probably 6 or 8 years ago. But if that could be rectified, then I've spoken with Nathan Barrett. He has some money available for resurfacing, but all those roads out there, except for Beachview, would need to be resurfaced. There have been a lot of road cuts due to utilities, particularly on Briarfield Avenue. So that would be the second most important thing, the infrastructure issue, whatever that might be on Pine Grove, and then working with the county to get those roads resurfaced. The third thing is going to be when this water lines project in Bay Vista, west of Rich is Ward 5, east of Rich Avenue is Ward 4. But when all of that's done, I don't think, all we're doing is replacing the water lines. Nothing has been set aside to resurface those roads, but they really need to be resurfaced following that. So that's the third thing. The fourth thing, in some neighborhoods, we have concrete panels. One is the Enclave. The second is River Place. And the third is, let's see, Bay Point Drive, which is a short little cul-de-sac at the end of, north end of Big Lake Road. And it's not replacing all the panels, but there are a number of panels that really are just nothing more than almost gravel. So that's the next thing. That's the fourth thing. The fifth thing, which was really most important years ago, but now that's paled in comparison to these others, is the erosion along the Churchill ditch on both sides. Property owners, and it's on the list, and of course there's an estimated cost attached to that, And I think it's, I don't know what you call that, Christie, the rocks, and then it's like liquid or wet cement's poured over it and it hardens, and it's not unattractive. It looks more natural, and if it does the job. But remember there on that shoulder along Churchill, we put that netting in probably 10 years ago, and a lot of that has been chewed up by mud. That would have to be pulled up. So those are the top 5 things in Ward 5 from my perspective in priority order. The last thing, the 6th thing, would be the relocation of the Fire Station 5. This was mentioned at Mr. Nail's ward meeting last night, and it makes perfect sense to me. Again, that's probably a different topic at a different time, given the nature of what we're trying to accomplish with this bond issue. So those are my notes. Edgewater Estates, the water lines, Pine Grove Avenue, and resurfacing the Briarfield subdivision, resurfacing Bay Vista after the water line project, concrete panels in a few neighborhoods, Churchill Avenue ditch, and then citywide would be Fire Station 5. I do have some questions, and they may be answered today, may not. So we've talked about 10 million, we've talked about 14 million, and in relation to that, what's the largest bond we could reasonably afford at this point in time? I know it's coming out of the blue. Maybe Jamie or Jason could answer that. I don't know, and maybe nobody can answer it with some specificity, but just an idea.
To answer that, I need to know what your target is for debt service. You can always, you have plenty of capacity under statutory debt limits for GO debt. You're currently at between 6 and 7%. You can go up to 15. So the capacity is there. It would mean you'd get to a certain amount, and you would probably have to raise your millage dedicated to debt service.
Right, okay. And I understand, given the variables and everything, that's as specific as you could be right now. So.
Right, and a targeted amount of debt service would allow us to back into that number.
Right, and
Let me throw my 2 cents, and I think, with regard to some of the things, in relationship to the debt service that's rolling off, about 3 mills that will be coming, the value of the millage will be going up.
Right.
So in 28, 29 will be the most stressful. Say, and y'all nod,
Yes.
if $20 million is not unreasonable, given the situation.
I don't think it's unreasonable. Y'all will have some debt rolling off, we know, next year, and then also in the early 30s, there'll be some more debt rolling off, and I'm talking general obligation debt. And as the mayor pointed out, your assessed value is going to go up. So while the dollar amount will definitely go up, your level of millage will not, march right up with it because of millage increases in value.
right, so did I hear you?
20.
You said 20 million?
Yeah,
No, I'm just looking for a figure.
I see the way without stressing, the finances. Literally, the more you wait, the longer it's going to cost. You can't just push it down, and you can't kick this thing down the road. Get the stuff that you need and that's important done. You have a fixed amount of financing to do. You got to you're fixing the cost based on 3 years of rollout.
And now that I've unthawed my laptop for my trip to Oxford this weekend, I can calculate that while we're sitting here and come up with a number for 20.
Okay, I'm just curious because I know we have more needs than what we've talked about at this point, but that's why we're here today to discuss these things.
That's about right, yeah.
So you're going to see what the numbers look like with 20 million?
Yeah.
Can you also do 25?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have an estimate? I'm asking out the blue. I'm not trying to commit or promise anybody anything, but do you have maybe, Mrs. Do you have an estimate of what it's going to cost to make sure that Ward 7 get what they need?
I don't.
No, I'm talking Ms. Christie. Before you try to answer, let me be clear where I'm going with this. We can piecemeal this forever, and we end up in a hole, in a hole, in a hole. And, or we can just say, well, okay, let's just get a big bite and clear this up, clear up a whole lot of matters. So, yeah, but okay, what he's asking about is, we did annex them. We made them promises. It wasn't this administration, but promises were made. So to make a good dent into that, do you have an estimate of what kind of number?
I do not off the top of my head. We'd have to, we could come up with one, but I don't have one.
How much time do you think to come up with it?
It would probably take me about a week. It's a pretty extensive.
Let me say, at hand, this discussion was about whether we go forward with a bond. This is the kinds of things we're spending with. There was timing in this issue that Jane and Jason need. Say, okay, whether the amount is 20 or 14, just not specifically, but we're going to borrow some money in order to do things. Is that a fair statement? Now, we don't need to go, but I think the thing that Councilman Tisdale asked, what is our capacity? And what is our capacity to service the debt?
Yeah, the thing to remember.
The answer that when we ask for a resolution so they can go to the banks to go forward, we just need a number to throw at them, not the specifics at this point.
Right.
What we can choke down, whether it's 25 or 20 or 14 or 15, right. That's the whole point of this. But these are the kinds of things that have been identified as what we got to do. We have no choice. And if we push it down the road, it's going to cost more than the debt service it's related to. It's better to do it now than later.
Yes,
I'm in total agreement with that. I just want to make sure that we do the amount enough to show progress.
I agree.
And just let me explain, this resolution has a not to exceed amount. It doesn't say you have to issue bonds in that amount. It says you can issue bonds up to that amount. The bond resolution, which comes later in the process, will have the amount that is fixed. This resolution is just the not to exceed. We do it as a higher number, recommend doing it as a higher number because of the publication requirements and the process of going through the Mississippi Development Bank. Because if you can always lower it, but if you raise it, you have to start over.
Right. And let me say this about that, too. Over the next 3 years or whatever, take the fire station, for instance. I mean, we're chasing SMPDD and even USDA on how to get that $2 million in even fire trucks. So we could supplant, if we were to put, and the same thing with the community center. If we were to put that $5 million and there's some other source, we'll find out the use for that $5 million that the cash was initially talking about, but that's the whole idea, is let's get a number, let's go with a number, and then as things shake out and we get favorable, funding or some opportunities pop up, we can always push it that way. We can utilize those dollars in order to meet other needs.
From my standpoint, and knowing this process, the number in resolution of intent should not be, it should not be the bare minimum that you're willing to issue. It should be more towards the most you're willing to issue, because, like I said, you can dial it down when you actually do the bond resolution, which sets the amount in stone.
Okay, so
We've done a number of things in the past that we wish we'd have doubled some numbers
That is true.
in the past.
So let me ask-
We don't want to make that mistake again based on our real great experiences we've had over the last 4 years in financing and refinance, I can promise you.
I'm kind of leaning towards that 14 is like that bare minimum you're saying we shouldn't do.
I'm saying that you should, that number, my recommendation would be to make it higher.
Okay, so the resolution that we were talking about is that the most we want to do is, let's say we do 30. Let's say we come together, we got so much going on. We say we do 25, 30. You're saying that the resolution is saying not to exceed that.
That is correct.
We can go in and we can whittle it down to 15.
You could.
In other words, they're saying don't borrow more than, we set a high limit, and then we start working down from there.
What would that note be at 30?
Let me say this about where we are right this minute and where we're going to be this afternoon. We're hopeful of a resolution that gives Jane and Jason to go forward to the bank, to meet 2 monthly things, whether it's 20, 25, 30, whatever. I think 2025 is my comfort level for y'all to chase, and that gives us some flexibility over the next 2 months, I guess, right?
Yes, it'll be over the next 2 months. First, there's a publication period that takes place kind of within the Development Bank timeline. But I think, Jane, your timeline had us issuing bonds in mid-April.
Yes, it has us going back. And this calendar is not the Bible. I mean, we can go slower or can't go much faster, but we could go slower. This has us going back to the bank in early March, and at that point, we need to have a good number. But if you do a resolution of intent for a not-to-exceed higher number now, you've got a month to figure out what total amount that you're comfortable with. And so I would agree with Jason. If you think you might want to issue 20 or 25 million, go ahead and do a resolution of intent for the higher number.
Let me ask, I mean, I hope everybody understands the question that we'll be facing this afternoon. We just need permission to move it forward.
Right.
We've done our best to identify the things that we know about, and y'all have provided some input on.
Mayor, I understand that process. I want to chime in for a second. I am very uncomfortable. Last meeting, we heard Councilman Shoemaker talk about adding debt, and though I know it's necessary, and it is necessary, 10 million, 14 million sounds reasonable, but if we're going to go and exceed 20 million, I start getting uncomfortable. Regardless, oh yeah, we can dial it down and everything. That's a number, at least from my standpoint, I cannot support exceeding 20 million or 25, or we're throwing out a number, $30 million. This is the people's credit card that we're using, and it's not our personal credit card, even though I understand we have needs and we wants and things that have been promised, but then we also have a capability. And even though we may have a bonding capability, we may have a AA rating and all that kind of stuff, I don't want to get too intoxicated with this thing. That's my 2 cents. I'm only one councilman of 7 up here, but I think this list is kind of reasonable as a starting point. We've added some things to it. But we got to come back to the center and be a little bit more somewhat conservative on this. And I'll yield my time.
Let me say this about business and debt. Okay, you're avoiding the real cost to own, cost to do business. So by being shaky on where we go, I mean, this is the only way in a business standpoint. Because if you push 2 or 3 things, some things down the road 2 years, it's going to cost you much more than this interest it is to get there. So again, the stressful point in time, hey, you got to get these things done. The sooner you get it done, the less it's going to cost life cycle. So that's my.
Mayor, you and I, we both agreeing on that. I just want to comment that we are agreeing on something.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'm a business-minded person also, and I believe, I don't want to borrow. But there are times I just got to borrow, and I want to borrow enough to do the job. And if I need to borrow enough to do the job, it's a cost of doing business. Rather than waiting,
we
I
agree.
keep trying to that. Yeah, hey, you're getting somewhere. But if we put this gym off, or we put all his maintenance, his infrastructure work off any further, next year, 2 years from now, we're passing the cost, the extra cost on to someone else. So we're going to do something. Let's just do it. And clear it all up right now. And this is not going to get any lower. Is the money going to get any cheaper to borrow? You think?
Like I said at the last meeting, I don't predict interest rates. I did hear on the TV this morning, they don't expect the Fed to lower again anytime soon. Is that right, Jason?
It is, and also, the thing to remember is while long-term interest rates, which this is, do respond somewhat to the federal funds rate, which is the rate that moves up and down that they can set by fiat. Bond rates really reflect the inflation expectations going forward in the market. So they don't move in lockstep with the Fed. They're affected by it, but don't move in lockstep.
I'm going to move on to Mr. Nail, but on that point, do y'all recall the interest rate on those last 2 bonds that we issued? They were below 3, were they not? Or
I think they were around 4.
were they around 4, both of them?
The 5 million would go 22. 22 is, I think it was at 4 point something, right at 5, I believe.
Okay, close to
The 5 million was part of it.
Okay.
Yeah, the 24 was the two bonds, were 24 and 5%. The interest rate, current net interest rate on outstanding bonds.
Yeah. All right. Mike?
This kind of guy I am. On Hiller Park, the bathrooms, 175, and the ballpark, 225. That's $400,000.
What's left, yeah.
I'm gonna give 200,000 to Ward 7, 200 to him. We can fix the ballpark another way.
Well, I understand.
I know they need water and sewer pretty bad, and he wants his thing, so I'll give him 200 apiece. If that'll help out anything, so we don't have to go above this 14 million.
There you go.
Now I've asked somebody to watch my back.
There you go. Mr. Nail, you're solving problems. Let's go to Mr. Tisdale.
Sure, thank you. Would it be possible, can we get a copy of the bond schedule so we can see what bonds are rolling off in the next few years? I know it'll be
Apply that in the bottom.
11 by 17 or something. The sooner we can get that just to look at it, it would be helpful. The other thing, typically, how long do we pay on these bonds?
20. This is 20.
This would be 20, okay. And I just want to point out that we did the West Biloxi Master Plan in 2021, so that's almost 5 years old. I think it came out in November. And if you want to have an idea of how much the costs have gone up in 5 years, because that master plan broke down the infrastructure cost for improvements in West Biloxi, which was defined as White Avenue west to DeBees Road, south of the bay. So if anybody wants to know how much those costs have gone up, and I think Walt Rohde, dealing with all these FEMA projects and bids, is probably in the best position to know how much those costs have risen in the last 5 years. So the point, Mayor, is well taken. The longer you put this off, the more expensive it's going to be. I don't think anybody doubts that. So anyway, those are my projects in priority order. And like I said, if we could get a bond payment schedule so we can see what rolls off and when, I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tisdale. I'll conclude with a quick round robin, and we'll conclude this starting with Mr. Gray.
I got a question. This 321 parking lot on the division, is that the police department?
That's the warehouse and police department and public utilities, utilities building that we improved in parking lot, and the expansion of the parking for the police department education part.
Okay. Another thing, I know we need this, we kind of need this bond to get us back on track. But eventually, we have to, as a city, we're going to have to stand on our own. Instead of waiting another 20 years, passing this debt on to our grandkids and our kids and our grandkids, we're going to have to figure a way to stand on our own to do this. I know it sounds reasonable, to get this thing done, but some of the stuff has been just not done or neglected over the last 20 years. That the city could have found the money to done. But eventually, we got to stand on our own instead of keep doing bonds. And I'm like a lot of us in agreement on this, that we can't just do bonds every time we need something. So we have to figure out a way, either, with inflation done raised so high, we'll have to look at different ways to figure out how to get some of these projects done. And I know we all need, but eventually we got to stand on our own. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Gray. Mr. Marshall.
Come back to me.
Nope, this round robin. This is your shot right here. I'll come back to you after you, if you need something afterwards.
No one wants to borrow money. That's just the bottom line. When you're borrowing money, it's good and it's bad. A lot of times we only look at the bad. The price of the things that we want to do this year is going to be more next year. The cost of building that recreation center that we turned around in 2019 on. In 2019, we was, my family, my community was out here turning the ground on this, 2019. Also in 2018, we went out there to their grocery store lot on the corner of Calvert and Division, and we did the same thing. WLOX was there, and we promised a grocery store to the community. The cost of those items have gone up tremendously since then. If you're gonna do it, you're gonna do a promise. If we had done it then, we would have been through, we'd be sitting here discussing this, and would have done it for a whole lot cheaper. If we wait another year, 2 years, 3 years, the promise is still there. This community is not gonna walk away from this. You promise it to them, they're gonna get it. But we're gonna pass the higher cost on, keep passing the higher cost on. There is a such thing as borrowing too little to not do what needs to be done. People have done that when they're trying to build a house. They borrow too little. They run into all type of costs, and the project goes on because they can't complete it. If you're willing to take off, if we go with the higher number, and you're willing to take off amounts to work down to what we gotta have, that would be, to me, the starting point. Rather than going in, as council's already said, going in too low and wishing we had them. Even the mayor, we're in agreement, going in too low and then wishing we had it, because you can't go back and get it like that. You're never gonna get those rates again. So if we start with the higher number, our next work session, we're not committing anything to this, he's saying. We're just starting out, this is the most. Then we start working down to an actual, this is the number that we're gonna have to have. That makes a lot more sense. Then our citizens would know, our residents would know that we will down to the bare necessity. It may cost, and I know that ward, my president got a lot on there. A lot of that money went to his ward. He may want to take off a few things. You know, we know Nels wouldn't give a few things. Tisdale probably don't even need anything over there, so he'll probably give all of his. We'll get it down. But let's not start off with an unrealistic number and then realize it was just too low and we all hurting. We're going to pass that cost on to the future. Let's go on and just do what we're going to do and get it done.
Thank you. Mr. Nail?
What's the payment on this? A month?
1.1 million a year for 14 million.
And we're gonna pay off some stuff to kind of counteract the payment?
It's two different bonds. The general obligation 2012 debt, 517 principal interest and agent is $517,000 a year. 2016 TIP, they'll be rolling off in, I think, November 1, 2027. Is 1.396,888 a year.
Actually, Mayor, I'm sorry, I think it's 2.4 million a year on the, I can double check that. Oh, I forget, the county gives us money for that, you're right.
And we will be able to afford the payment? No problem? All right.
Let's go with it.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to chime in with a few things. Again, I can't support increasing it significantly. I can support increasing it some, and the reason why, we have other things in our toolbox. We have Go Mesa funding, we have Tideland funding, we have grants that we need to apply for, and we need to exhaust all those avenues. And I hear you, we got debt rolling off, and the reason we got debt rolling off is because we were responsible for the amount of debt that we issued. And yes, it's going to mean $2.4 or $3 million to the positive, but we need those funds to build up our reserves. Y'all seen the recent budget. Where's our reserves projected to be at this end of this fiscal year? And yes, when those roll off, we'll have the opportunity to build up those reserves. We should have reserves equal to 2 or 3 months of normal expenses. Do we have that? Yeah, the answer is no right now. So I get it. You know, we see it and we want to cure everything in our, our first 4-year term. We want to cure everything, but there's consequences, and we got to weigh that. Is it the right thing to increase it to 30 million or 25 million or 20 million? All 7 of us collectively are going to have to make that decision, not me alone. It'll be all 7 of us of what your tolerant level is. But you have to also be thinking about the other things in our toolbox and what that effect is. So, I respect everybody's opinion. I'm not saying your opinion is wrong, or your perspective is wrong, or your suggestions are wrong. I just think we have to give it a little more thought than an hour in a workshop before we pull the trigger and get somewhere we may not want to go.
If I'm part of this roundtable, let me kind of
Yep.
get something up.
Go ahead, Mayor.
And, everybody's made some great points on the situation. And to your point regarding things that are going to happen favorably for us, and just looking at the report that we're going to talk about this afternoon, with regard to where we are this year through 3 months versus where we were last year. That difference is $1 million plus. So the belt tightening and some of the things we've done. So we're going to be favorable there. We're looking forward to some benefits that are going to be coming in April regarding maybe insurance. So in significant amounts that we're going to be saving off of, that all translates to bottom line, translates to, we're facing April something, 3rd or 4th, $3.4 million in property insurance. So we're very hopeful. We can't book it, but we're very hopeful that those things will put us in even a better position to,
That's right.
service the debt.
Good point, Mayor, and that's my point. We can always, next year, if we do a certain amount this year, we can always go next year and go after more bonds if we need to. But that's in our toolbox. But we should just take a look at, last meeting we were shocked because some of these council members were saying, hey, why are we going to 10 to 14? And we needed to vet that today. And I'm not saying it's the wrong thing to do to go to a higher amount. I'm just saying I can't support going too high just for my vote. Mr. Crew.
I know, so taking on debt, this is debt, this is what we're doing, right? So, and we need to be more fiscal responsible. I know we have money dropped off, I know all the figures. I guess the issue I'm having is how many of these projects that are on this list that are of priority were on the previous bond list of projects when you took out, or previous council administrations took out bonds. To your point, when you kick it down the street, it's costing more and more money. How many of these projects have been kicked down the street to where they are going to cost more and more money, to where they wasn't done when they were originally on the list, but now they're still continually on the list? That's going to be something that I have to figure out for myself. I'm looking at this pecking order. It was mentioned by Rick that the first two categories are priority. I'm looking at some of the the categories, the options in the first two categories, and I guess I don't see the dire needs as opposed to some that are further down. But that, again, that's on me. I'm assuming that once we do go and decide on an amount to intend or what have you, that these projects prior to funding would have to come back before this council to be approved. And with that being said, I guess we'll look at the individual projects and base them on their merit at that time. At this point, I have many more questions, and I guess what I'll do is I'll just send them over, and we can go from there, and just pray on it from there. So thank you.
Can I go respond to something Mr. Creel said?
Go ahead, Mr. Marshall.
Okay. Mr. Creel, you asked the question, what was already on a prior bond and then it's being kicked down. The East Biloxi Recreation Center was already on there, and as you can see, the cost of it now is going up, and it's going to cost more. So that would be one simple, quick answer to your project. This is a project that's being kicked down. It's 5 years later.
Thank you, Mr. Marshall. Mr. Tisdale.
Yes, just a reminder, get me a copy of, or get the council a copy of the bond schedule, and also I heard Tiff's mention, maybe it'd be nice to know that as well. And the other thing I'm looking for is specificity and priorities in the projects that we do select to be funded by this bond, whatever the amount, so we know what's going to get done specifically and in roughly what order based on the priorities. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tisdale. Mr. Shoemaker.
Just a few things. I'll make it quick. I had a lot to say last week regarding the bond, and I stand behind everything I said last week. I have to agree with President Glavin, your last comments. I agree with all that as well, but I have to agree with the administration too. This is millions of dollars worth of repairs and projects that, quite frankly, we don't have the money to get done if we don't have this bond. Understand that. I know we've got to prioritize some things. I do also have some questions, and I'll get with y'all after the meeting or at some point over the next couple of days and maybe discuss those as well. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Chair will entertain a motion to
Mr. President, may I
adjourn.
ask a quick question?
Let's hold off on that. Yes, you may.
The resolution that we presented, I think last week, you all tabled for 2 weeks. That resolution will have to be amended to change the protest date. And if you also want to change the amount, the not to exceed amount, it will have to be amended. So I'm wondering if you'd like me to just prepare a new resolution and get it on the agenda for next meeting.
Yeah, you can prepare a substitute amendment, however we label it. That'd be great. Thank you for pointing that out. We appreciate your expertise.
And do you want it up to 20 or up to 25?
For the purpose of the meeting, can we determine at the meeting what amount to put in that blank? Or does it, and then we can put it, we'll take that action before we close that meeting in 2 weeks. Is that possible?
I think when somebody moves it, you might have to have a number filled in. I don't know. I'm looking over at Mr. Abide for his expertise.
I was waiting for you to give me the numbers of what it's going to cost, 20, 25, and 30. That's why we asked for. And that's what Mr. Tisdale asked for also, right, Mr. Tisdale?
My thought would be you change, if you want to change the protest date, you got to change that anyway, right?
Right.
And bring it in at 14 million, and then it could be
amended
at that time.
All right.
All right, so I'll leave it at 14 and I'll change the date and then.
The protest date, and then if we need to amend the 14 million, we'll do it in our meeting.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Peter.
Wait, no.
I know the question was asked with the total amount that was available that we could go at. There's a maximum amount that you can go to. I think he was, and May has stepped out the room when he gave that number. I was just.
The maximum statutory, you're limited for most purposes, 50% of the city's total assessed value. The dollar amount that statutory debt cap is
Okay.
So
leaves you about.
Is that where you want to put it?
Million, but for marketing purposes, and this is more Jason's bailiwick, but, well, a couple of things. I don't know that you could sell a $60 million bond if you wanted to.
I'm not saying that at all.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
what was that number again?
Have to be able to spend the money, reasonably expect to spend the money within 3 years.
What was
We
the
haven't had
maximum?
that issue, I don't believe.
Yeah.
What was the maximum number again you came up with, sir?
118.7 million, that's 50%. That's about
118.7 million?
And you already have 50 million in general obligations.
We already got 50? Okay. So,
We,
6.19% of that cap. So you have room, but I think
no.
yeah.
No, we just want to get a number.
We can kind of weigh amendments if y'all propose an amendment of 30 million or whatever, or keep it at 14 or go to 20 at the time of our next meeting. Okay, with that, Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Gray. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Creel. Any discussion, Mr. Gray?
None.
Mr. Creel?
None.
Anyone else? All in favor? Those opposed? Good job, everybody.
I don't know if we caused more confusion than good.
If you will say.
Put him on the
I didn't realize I was singing a little too loud.
Yeah, you big meeting.